Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and we today are going to be talking about Studio Ghibli, with the release of its new movie, Boy and the Heron, which because we thought we would talk a little bit of Studio Ghibli and its kind of capturing magic and the Western world a little bit more than most other
Yeah,
anime kind of studios.
I think it's about time we got around to talking about Studio Ghibli. Paul, you're a fan, so let's set the table. We've got two sides of the room here. We've got experience on Paul's side of the house, and me, who's recently been catching up. And I'm really looking forward to The Boy and the Heron, which is already getting well reviewed and actually being well seen. So there's a few angles to this, Paul, as far as this has jumped, it's jumped off the Japanese islands. This is not niche manga at all. This is international cinema and has been for many, many years.
Yeah, like that's the thing. So I would say from God, I would say probably from Spirited Away. That movie was probably the one that
Hmm.
kind of jumped us considerably faster over the shores and stuff like that.
Well, it was
Um,
the first and only to win an Oscar. It's still the only hand-drawn foreign language Oscar winner, I think.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, so like and I think it was the first one that kind of was like more released further with a little bit more kind of push towards kind of I guess beyond Japan kind of shores. But I think it was the one that kind of really opened the doors for a lot of people. And then I think with following up of kind of Howl's Moving Castle, that one kind of that one exploded,
Yeah.
kind of thing because Christian Bale as Hal for the dubbed version, which has
Yeah.
there's a
And actually,
cute.
Paul, oh, go for it.
I was going to say
Sorry.
there's a cute anecdote about Christian Bale jumping in on Hal's
Give it.
stuff. Oh, so he really liked Studio Ghibli's kind of work, and he wanted to do a small role, voice acting role when they were doing the dub thing, and he thought he was going to be, which goes Turnip Head, which is a kind of like minor, yeah,
Scarecrow-ish.
minor character,
Oh
kind
yeah.
of thing, and he was given Hal, the title character. So they came
So
back
he
to him
thought
was
he
just
was
like,
he was going to be background actor number three, and he showed up, and it's like, hang on, I'm the lead. Fantastic.
yeah, pretty much. So I would say that Howl's Moving Castle really kind of exploded in more kind of recent years, to bring Ghibli onto the mainstream. And then obviously its follow up of kind of Ponyo and a couple of other ones and stuff like that, which just really kind of I guess solidified its place within kind of animation and anime kind of history books, I guess. So
Yeah, and I think outside of animation, even Studio Ghibli is it's a name, a known name. They've become, and okay, it's 40 years now since they started in the 80s ish, or yeah,
mid 80s,
80s, I
yeah.
think, mid 80s. It's not just animation. The same way that people talk about Pixar, they don't just talk about Pixar being animated movies. Pixar is a movie studio, Ghibli's a movie studio. Um, but I think for film fans, let's say, Ghibli is part of the conversation, which is a part of a conversation we've had before when I've admitted that you know, to my shame, I hadn't really dipped my toe in the water too much. And in fact, while I was catching up on my my Studio Ghibli, Paul, I did find a kind of a meme where someone pointed that out. Oh yeah, film fan hasn't watched Ghibli yet. And every time you say, are you going to watch Ghibli? They're like, yeah, yeah, probably tomorrow. And it's the sort of thing that people don't get round to. Now, I don't know why I never got round to it, but I'm very sorry I didn't until recently because there's a lot of brilliance there, a lot of brilliance there, and not just visually, but we're going to have to mention visually at some stage because they are stunningly beautiful.
Yes, that's the thing. So like that's they're absolutely amazing kind of animation. There's certain elements of it that are just uh incredible, which I will bring up in later a little bit later. It's one of my favorite things of kind of Studio Ghibli movies. But yeah, Studio Ghibli started in 19 about I think it's about 1985 they started with their first movie which was Nausicaa, the Wind, the Valley of the Wind, which is probably one of their more crazier ones. So that was kind of the interesting. Also, the music is absolutely incredible for Nausicaa as well. But yeah, it set the stage for their kind of animation and a lot of that stuff, which was very kind of old school, and they keep it old school, kind of like feeding them and on brand.
Mm,
They might update it with kind of the quality, as in like it's 4K, but it's still the
yeah.
same look and feel, kind of style of animation and stuff like that. So like, that's what they're kind of famous for. Um, yeah, and then obviously like there's a couple of other ones within the kind of mainstream kind of knowledge of kind of like My Neighbor Totoro, House Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, which goes and then my one of my personal favorite, which isn't actually more mainstream, which is Pogo Rosso, which is a great one as well. Um,
Which, Paul, I watched because you mentioned it was one of your favorites,
yeah,
and instantly it became one of mine too. Except I shouldn't say instantly. After I'd watched it, it became one of my favorites. And I'm gonna give you a full breakdown of why I just said that in a little while, because there's something very particular about the Ghibli movies for somebody who's new to them, and that is that when you're watching them, as beautiful as they are, if you try and overthink, okay, well, where's the story going? What is this going to mean? What is that going to mean? You end up not getting what you're going to end up getting afterwards. Every single Ghibli movie I've watched so far, the best thing I can do is go with it,
yeah,
enjoy the story as it's telling me the story, and then afterwards, I'll have that, yeah. You see the themes as they're happening, but really it's sort of like it's like a dessert. You yum 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 yum. Don't think too much about it. Afterwards, you're like, gosh, that was really nice. And I think Pocoroso is very much the epitome of that for me in all movies now, because there are movies like that, but now
hmm
I'm going to be using Pocoroso as my example of that. Watch it, enjoy it, then let your mind give you more about it and think it through for you.
yeah. Like that's the Studio Ghibli is fantastic with kind of the animation and the magic of the story and everything like that. But there's a lot of kind of deeper meaning into a lot of their stories. Some is like Pogoroso is essentially just kind of more about self-evaluation kind of thing, because the main character is mostly on screen. You can see the poster is mostly a pig man, in a
Yeah.
world where no one else is a pig man, or pig people. They're all human, and it's essentially that he it's a curse that has been placed on him. And it's an interesting kind of, you before this said that it could, it's the only magical element, or I said it was the only magical element of the movie, and you went, it could
Yeah.
also be just metaphorical, which is also fantastic.
Yeah. And,
um
and honestly, like we won't spoil any of these movies for anyone, so I won't go into detail on Poker also Paul about specifics of the plot. But suffice it to say, it's one of the least important things about the movie that um, this man is a pig, and the curse is not, it's mentioned, but it is not the entire plot. The plot is something else. And it's a story about dealing with PTSD, with aging, with all sorts of things. In fact, after I watched it, I was like, I started having thoughts and having other things, but it wasn't until like 2 days later that I was starting to think of some of the bigger other themes that I identify personally with in it, which is why I'm now waiting to see what will happen as I watch the next Ghibli movies that I watch. Will that happen as often? I don't know, and there would be no guarantee, but enjoy it for what it is when it's happening, and then get that wonderful aftertaste or aftershock of I'm getting more out of it now. They're rewatchable, I think, because of that too.
oh yeah, yeah, I watched Pogoroso like a lot. And I watched House Moving Castle, Spirited Away. Like I watched the mainstream ones. I say mainstream; they're the core ones, which
Mm.
is a lot. But the other ones are also fantastic. Ponyo is quite good, which is Tales from Earthsea as well is also a fantastic one. That is also one of the crazier ones. Great Grave of the Fireflies. Oh, that is a tough watch if you haven't watched it before. Grave of the Fireflies is essentially the aftermath of one of the bombs dropping.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's not a fantastic kind of cheerful version of the film, or the studio. It's one of the kind of darker entries into the Studio Ghibli kind of
Which, from
library.
what I can see, they don't stray away from. And here's the other thing. I didn't know if I was going into this about to see the Pixar style thing where it's a kids film that adults can enjoy, or sometimes the Pixar style film where it's an adults film that kids can enjoy because they pull that switch.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to get, but thematically, so far everything I've seen from Ghibli is it's mature in undertone, but it's for younger audiences also in various ways. Like it's not going to alienate people that every topic is so far into the depths of darkness, but everything that it's dealing with, be it from the environment to post-traumatic stress to um, uh, female empowerment, depending on which movie you're talking about, spirituality, understanding, aging, these fundamental themes, everybody can enjoy that from a relatively young age. Okay, maybe not a 4-year-old, but
Yeah.
even then, every frame of painting, if you chose wisely, you could easily watch one of these with a 4-year-old, and they would absolutely enjoy the beauty that's on display and the sound. My God, the sound. But sorry, Paul, I'm jumping way ahead.
No, no, you're not at all. Like, yeah, no, Grave of the Fireflies, I would say, isn't one of those. It is not
Mm,
a one that's kind of made for kids. I definitely think
yeah,
made for or kind of adult one. But as I said, it's a difference within the it's a different one compared to most of the other Studio Ghibli kind of movies. Yeah, let's kind of we'll stick around. So like Howl's Moving Castle, probably the one that kind of hit the road the most with some kind. I think it's one of the ones that kind of hit a good amount of tones and stuff like that with a couple of magical kind of items and people, that I think it really kind of put Ghibli into the limelight a lot more than Spirited Away. Though Spirited Away is definitely the
yeah,
precursor to the whole thing. But I definitely think this introduced a lot more uh Western voice actors to the kind of thing, because the Boy and the Heron has such an amazing Western kind of voiced dub cast, and then of course, as normal, it is fantastically voice acted from kind of the great actors from Japan. And so like it's got this kind of great symbolism where it's just like now it's becoming more kind of wanted as a voice acting gig
yeah.
for a lot of Western kind of people, because like Christian Bale's back as one of the characters. You've got
Robert
God,
Pattinson.
huh?
Robert Pattinson is in The Boy and the Heron, as far as I know.
Yeah, Florence Pugh is also in it, which is Dave
There you go.
Bautista and stuff like that. So like, it's quite a wide variety of characters. There's very little. Shia LaBeouf and Patrick Stewart were actually in Nausicaa. So like that's it, like certain actors have loved to be in these kind of movies, but
Well, Billy Bob Thornton in Princess Mononoke. You've got Michael Keaton in Poker Rosso that we were just talking about.
yeah,
Emily Mortimer in here, along with Christian Bale in Howls, along with I think Lauren Bacall is in one of them as well. Possibly this one actually. I think as the older representation of the main character or
yeah,
one of the main characters. Like the voice acting itself, because I watched the English dubs. I'll admit, and in one case in particular, I regretted it because I think I would have liked to have seen it with subs first and then done dubs.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I should have texted you and asked some advice which way to go. In fact, Paul, what's your chosen modality for this? Do you want, when you're watching Studio
Oh,
Ghibli, do you want the dub or the sub?
I
Which is it?
so I watch the sub first, and then there's a few that I watch it in the dub, kind of thing. So I watch them in both, but there's some that I
Mhm.
prefer in the dub than I do in with the sub. So House Moving Castle and Pogo Rosso, Spirited Away, I do prefer in the dub version. Um, but then kind of My Neighbor Totoro and Ponyo and a couple of other ones I prefer way more in the sub, kind of
Yeah.
some of the original ones.
I'm gonna have to actually after the show. I'm gonna get a list off Paul. Paul, you're gonna be working on a list over your break, right now, which is the best way to see them for the first time.
Okay. I'm going to say sub all the time, but like I'm going to see Boy and the Heron actually next week, which is as it doesn't get released here in Ireland until next week, but we're going to the sub first, and then
Right.
I'm very which is unusual for me because in the sense that I'm very much looking also for the dub in this case. As in, usually I'm just like I can't wait to see the sub. It's going to be great, and then I'm like I'll watch it in a dub because this person's kind of on it. But the cast for the dub is so good that I'm like I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch it. So I'll probably watch it like next day, something like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Well, I went to see Godzilla minus one. Excellent, by the way, excellent.
Oh, nice.
And I was very much specifically looking for subtitled. And it's worth it. But that's a whole other thing. So, Paul, how's moving castle? If I was to try and, because I'm playing the outsider here because
Yeah,
I am. If I was to try and describe it to somebody and as to why they'd want to see it, it's all the hallmarks of Ghibli from what I can see. It is beautiful. It has, the fantasy elements absolutely front and center in a lot of ways. But the characterization, and I actually just realized that Billy Crystal just showed up on screen, as
yeah,
the flame.
Calcifer. Yeah,
Calcifer, yeah. Turnip Head, everything. Just, I would sell it to somebody by saying, do you want to watch something that's incredibly beautiful, made with such care and attention that you'll actually be stunned just by the Foley artistry? That alone will get you. And then beautifully scored, wonderfully scored. And it's epic in its own moments, and you get a real sense of love for the craft that's being done. I There's many movies we've talked about. We all say this about sequels. I don't care if it's a sequel or whatever the hell it is. If you're going to make a good story and you put love, care, and attention into it, then you're going to have a good outcome more than likely. This is what I mean by love, care, and attention.
yeah,
It oozes it. Not like on paper, not my thing. Absolutely, Paul, your thing. A
yeah,
moving castle. I'm like, yeah, I hate fantasy stuff, Paul. I hate it. I hate fantasies, is what my brain wants to scream when you say that. Watching this, nah, like it's like people who say they hate sci-fi, but they love Star Wars or they love Terminator.
yeah.
You're like, yeah. When it's done well, you're gonna love it. And this is done well.
Yeah, like that's the best way to kind of describe it. It's a fantasy that just does it's a well executed story surrounding or being surrounded by essentially fantastical kind of elements. This one particularly is about confidence and being yourself, kind of thing. The main character Sophie, which is being transferred into an old lady. Her curse is essentially the more confident and more kind of okay with herself. But once again, that curse is not the singular like thing
Exactly.
of the movie. It's not like it's just like she's not trying to break that curse, kind of thing. It's just a side part. But it's about which being comfortable in your own self and stuff like that. And as she does, she grows back to her kind of normal self, and everything. But there's a kind of bigger story which we don't want to spoil. But like that's the kind of thing. there's so many plots going on and so many moments within the storyline going on that which is you can follow the main one and still be so kind of like uh engrossed by others, by the B ones and stuff like that, the kind of side ones, um
It's true. It's
which
true.
is
They
just
can they
fantastic.
run in all the Ghibli I've seen, parallel storylines run nicely alongside each other, and then they can cross over and join very nicely. And it's the same thing with the underlying themes. There doesn't ever seem to be a single theme, which is nice. It means that you're going to have something that you're going to enjoy. If you're not completely invested in one character's journey or one subplot, there's always more to it. So the fact that the castle moves, that's not anything to do with really the plot of this whole
No.
movie, by the way. So titles are
Yeah.
deceiving when it comes to Ghibli, to be fair. Um, they're byproducts almost of the story.
Yeah, like Spirited Away, which is I'm showing the bathhouse right now. Spirited Away is a very kind of like loose one as well. It's essentially that just it's a little girl spirited away to the spirit
Mm.
realm. Not even spirited away. She wasn't like they walked into the
Yeah,
spirit world,
cross the
kind of
stream.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much that there's several kind of B plots about um kind of maturing and realizing that you need to kind of take on a little as a child. There's elements in which you could be a child, and then there's times when you have to grow up a little bit,
Well,
kind of
it
thing.
takes a good old swipe at capitalism and
Oh yeah.
Western consumerism.
Mm.
Like, and to do both of those things, like what Paul just described and what I just described, in the same movie
Yeah.
at the same time, not like in one part and then the second half. It's not like part one is about this and part two is about that. These things, like I say, they run parallel storylines or parallel themes in that case, but also parallel storylines to allow themes to be interwoven nicely. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why they're movies that are better digested than, you intake it, but then you have to kind of let it sit with you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, like it's one of those things that you kind of yeah, well as you said with Pogo Rosso, when you kind of once you finish it, you kind of go on and have like sit down and kind of think about what it was, or because Spirited Away also has a form of environmental, the impact of humanity on, which also is a big theme in several others, but it's another secondary kind of plot with Spirited Away, the impact of humans on kind of the environment and what that can mean, to especially to traditional Japanese culture, being that everything has a spirit. It can change how that, and obviously her being in the spirit realm, obviously she sees the impact of humanity on it, kind of thing. So like, um, God, which is environment. Like, if we're going to talk about environmentalism, we should definitely talk about Princess
I
Mononoke.
was about to say,
Like,
I know what you're going to pick for that. Yeah.
which is one of the big, which is probably one of the biggest environmental kind of focused ones stories, compared to like we'll go on to Nausicaa in a bit, but yeah, like this is a massive one about humanity and how it interacts with nature and the spirits
It
of nature and stuff.
completely doesn't hide that too. There's like, this is not one of those ones where I wonder what they're getting at. That's front and center. But again, loads and loads of other themes and through the other subplots and storylines melted into that. But from an environmental point of view, this is this is it. Like, it's like, yep. But not just environmental as in green. There is a real kind of sense of, it's not just about preserving the environment. It's about working out how people can share the environment and share the world and share societies and share resources and what people need and different factions need and different you know different beings need to be able to coexist. So it's environmental, not in the kind of chaining yourself to an oil tanker
Yeah,
sort of environmentalism. It's a bit more nuanced and broader than that. That's what the story leads to. It's how can this all work together? And it's told, none of these, we're making it sound like there isn't action and excitement.
Yeah, it's
All of these movies have action and excitement, but it doesn't get in the way of telling the story.
no, and then it also talks about the pushback of what the environment can do. That also is a warning to people in a big way. Princess Mononoke has a big kind of like, nature will start pushing back as
Yeah.
humanity crouches further and further destructively into nature rather than finding that balance kind of thing. But this is a big thing about the Studio Ghibli movies. Like we talking about Witch Kid Princess Mononoke there, which is a big environmental one. Nausicaa is also a big environmental one as well, with the Sea of Decay, but it's more focused on the effects of war on the environment, kind of thing. As the story is essentially set, I think 1,000 years after a 7-day war, which has cursed the earth and created these toxic jungles within the world, and it's very much like our impact, our kind of conflicts and stuff like that can very much impact the world and cause it to kind of mutate and change and kind of start fighting us back, kind of thing. So like yeah, the Sea of Decay, which is just a toxic jungle kind of thing, is just pushing back on humanity. Nausicaa is the Valley of the Wind. It's set in a small valley that is like, not lush and green and nice and stuff, because the people learn how to, live in unison with nature and stuff like that. But then it's about these two
Yeah.
nations that start fighting.
Harmony brings growth.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's essentially like, as I said, it's about uh war infecting environment, and then essentially humanity redoing what the past mistakes. Essentially, as the story kind of progresses, they find one of these weapons that have caused that great war, or great apocalypse from happening. And instead of kind of going, we should probably leave this alone or destroy it, they were just like, we should use it. It'll fix our problems.
Right.
And it's just like, that's exactly where the other people 1,000 years ago thought as well. And now look at them. So yeah, so that's the great thing about it. There's a lot of kind of themes within these movies, and obviously, as you've seen from the imagery and stuff like that, they have a very similar look and feel, and but which is very unique storytelling within their visuals as well.
Yeah.
As they go on, and as they as they go further into kind of like modern day, they kind of use up to date or newer methods and stuff like that to be able to kind of add more to their movies.
And
So
just on that, Paul, while you bring it up, because we've only got a couple of minutes before break, they share the aesthetic
mhm.
and the technique, which thankfully is brilliant and beautiful. Um, but um, there's no laziness here. Not everything is set in feudal Japan. Like we're talking the Adriatic Sea for Poco Rosso. Howl's Moving Castle, you're everywhere from I'm guessing the Alps at times. You've got alpine vistas to just about everything. Um, there's no there's no lack of variety in their maintaining aesthetic, which I think is a testament to great art. So you know you're watching Ghibli, but they don't all, it's not because you're like, oh, they all look the same. They all look the same in technique and general aesthetic, but they all come across very, very differently in their execution.
Yeah, like right now I'm showing Sky in the or Castle in the Sky. It's same aesthetic and stuff like that, but it's set also in another fantasy world, kind of thing, not in Japan or anything. And then obviously then there's the Secret World of Arietta, which is like a Fern Gully or Thumbelina kind of like elements of things. So like they do kind of like there's a lot of variety there for where their settings are and everything like that. So yeah,
Well, I know we got to go to break. I'm just going to say I always think animators are just magicians anyway because it's a talent I don't possess, and what they can produce is amazing. And this is some serious magic.
yeah,
Serious magic.
it is indeed. Which is yeah. So we're gonna go on to a break. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. See you in a bit.
All right, thank you. You obviously are like two people talking about movies, or you wouldn't even be seeing this ad. Well, don't tell anyone. But Hear Us Out isn't the only choice. You should check out our friends over at It Takes Two podcast. It's a podcast where two people take two films with the same plot or premise, watch and discuss them. Films like Gremlins and Critters, or The Truman Show on EdTV. Lisa and Nick don't stop there though. They get creative and compare some unexpected movies. Some that you don't see the connection until you realise that they can be described in the same way. They launch new episodes every second Tuesday, or Monday if you're in New Zealand. Find them on your favourite podcast service, or check the link in our description down below. That's It Takes Two podcast. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you.
Hey, welcome back. That was It Takes Two, which was friends of the show. Happy Christmas, It Takes Two.
Check them out wherever you get your podcasts.
So we won't go too much on which because I think we can just probably sing the praises of Studio Ghibli to the ends of the earth. But it's Studio Ghibli has this magic to it as well with its stories and stuff, which I think a lot of people who are movie lovers and story lovers very much get into a lot easier, because I think it's reminiscent of folk stories from our own home kind of thing. I know Ireland has a lot of folk tales and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the things that really kind of captures the magic of Studio Ghibli. I think it doesn't shy away from it doesn't shy away from being like, yeah, we're cute and folklory and kind of nice, but then interlace it with very complex kind of themes as well, which is a big thing for them.
Oh gosh, you have to take it for what it is. So here's again the outsider in. For anybody who's never watched Ghibli, I'm recommending it, but I'm also saying be ready. Don't think that you've just ordered pizza and what you're going to get is fish. This is not one of those times where it isn't what you're expecting a little bit of. It is very much in and of itself the way it wants to be, and that works out really well for it, as Paul's just said. There are going to be challenging things. If you don't like this animation style, then you may as well give up, because, well, for number one, what about it? What about some of the most beautiful animation I've ever seen don't you like? But maybe the character animation, which is of a very specific style, maybe that you can't gel with. It's going to be there. But once, if you don't like it, and once you get yourself past it or get over it, I think you'll find that there's plenty there. Paul, there's one criticism I would have about the longer stories.
Yeah.
As in, there's, and this does not apply equally to all, but I can tell, and I think maybe it's Hayao Miyazaki, the godfather behind all this kind of stuff. There is a definite patience, which I love. Drive is one of my favorite movies, and I always say it's not for everybody, but if you can sit there and be patient and enjoy it being patient with itself, you get the most out of the movie. So I don't want to come off like I don't understand what they're going for, but watching something like, let's say, Spirited Away, it is achingly beautiful, and in so many parts of the story, the slowdown of pace is so that you can drink it in, so that you can think and you can enjoy, and that's great. But there are other times where I'm watching it going, that shot could have been, it's like a 7-second shot that would have worked better as a 3-second shot for me. I watched it and instantly, because again, big dumb Neanderthal me, before letting it sink in, was like, yeah, that movie would have been made so much better by being 15 minutes shorter, over its whole entire running length, not taking out everything, just in certain places. And I see that in some of the other Ghibli I watched, and not at all in others. So I know it's not completely there, but that would be my one criticism. There is somebody's loving doing it, and sometimes there's just moments where I'm like, you're loving it too much right now.
Yeah, no,
you're
I definitely
rolling around in it a little.
Yeah, I definitely get, because there's the assassination of Jesse James with Brad Pitt. That is I think it's like 3 hours long. It is a beautiful film, but if you do not like the kind of west, kind of cowboy regions of America, scenery for a lot you are not going to enjoy that movie because there is some
Yeah.
wide scenery shots that take a long time. But yeah, no, I get your point in the sense that there's a reasoning behind it. It's to
Yeah.
show kind of like it's to show kind of like, the the world is not just like, action, 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 or plot,
Yeah.
plot, plot, plot. It's kind of going, there is moments of kind of being able to sit and take it in and everything like that. But yeah, I do get your points in the sense that
And
you could reduce it by a little bit.
it worked
um
75% of the time for me. And it works like, let's say Poco Rosso, it worked 100% of the time for me. But that's because it is a 90-minute. And if anything, any of its kind of pondering moments were just perfectly timed. Whereas I still do think that one or two of the others that I've watched, maybe not 15 minutes, but there's probably an accumulated 3 minutes that would have kept me with the story for longer. And I am thinking of Spirited Away here, which is a bit unfair. But having said that, there are other sections of that movie that there's kind of, I'm not gonna say there's nothing happening, but that they are very slow scenes, but for great reason. And it's a benefit. So again, my criticism is slight in this case, very slight.
No, yeah, and it's very valid in the sense of anyone who's going to step into these movies, that they understand that like there are scenery or kind of moments within the movies that are kind of more stretched out. Spirited Away, the moment pretty much near the start where like the kiosks and food vendors start lighting up, and that's a very kind of like swooping kind of like, you let's show kind of this town waking up kind of moments, and it's just like you've gotten your points across, but
Mm.
you want to show us more of this beautiful place and stuff. um do it, but do understand that there's audience members there who are just like, all right, okay, we're done with this scene, right?
Again,
um
will not bother me as much on second viewing. And to be fair, we haven't mentioned this yet because it's obviously beautiful and sounds great and is really well voice acted, etc. But my God, talk about, and the exact opposite of slow, talk about being able to world build very quickly, efficiently, and effectively. That
yeah,
you don't even realize that you're having world building done in front of you. Every 5 minutes in, it's like 10 minutes worth of world building has been done just as part of the story. And I think as a visual medium, you can learn every bit as much about filmmaking in the real world from something that's drawn in a non-real world just by how they do their world building visually. It's not going to curse. It's very impressive.
yeah, yeah, no.
Very impressive.
It's how quickly they can get ideas and kind of like things that have been in this world forever very quickly across to you. And they don't whisk you, they like, elements. Spirited Away has a lot of elements that are kind of more spirit world related and stuff, like, this thing is, a magical item that everybody kind of is kind of wanting and everything. But they don't kind of go, you know the history of this or anything. They're just like, no, listen,
Yeah,
this is a powerful token, and this is something that people will be sorting after, but it's only important in the sense of the value in which the story puts on it, not its
exactly.
history, kind of thing. So it's not going to kind of delve into too much, which is nice because it's just like, okay, I know that's important, I know it has a history, but in this sense, this is why it's important for the story, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it's,
filmmakers take note.
yeah,
This
kind
is
of
how
thing.
it's this is how it's done. Every time we don't like kicking films on this channel too much, Paul, but we have had to in the past where there's been show don't tell. We've said that so many times, but then the opposite where people have lumbered around throwing concepts and throwing ideas at you in such long form or in kind of spoon feeding you that they don't know how to do any world building or character building simultaneously. I gotta say, it may be the most impressive feat of all that you can be 5 to 10 minutes in to a Ghibli movie, and whatever you need to know, you know,
Yeah,
and whatever you're going to need to know, you get. It's yeah, it is very impressive. If people making live action movies like this, the people that you're talking about are the all-time great directors because it's a heck of a skill.
Yeah, no, it really is. Knowing the fact that like the Howl's Moving Castle is
That's the
like
example that really, yeah, that and Mononoke are both just off the charts for being able to set the table and get running.
yeah, like Howl's Moving Castle is like it's literally a moving castle, but has no importance within the
Yeah.
plot. But like they explain they have it like right at the start of the movie they have it wandering in the background of a town,
Hmm.
kind of in like fog, and then
Yeah, the
later on you
mists
get
part, and there it is.
yeah, it's just like yeah, it's just like oh look, we think Howl's Moving Castle is somewhere near, and then you see it in the mist, and you're just like ooh, it's like okay, cool. I now know that this is a mystical thing that everybody doesn't go near, and then as you get closer to it, you're kind of just going oh, it's really weird, and then as you get more used to it, it's like in the background more often, and you're
Yeah.
kind of just like accepting it, kind of thing. It's just a oh yeah, this is just a thing now in my world that I need to just take into account, kind of thing without any too much explanation.
So many filmmakers would have an opening crawl or one expositive character sitting in a tavern or a bar explaining, the history of witches and whatever else it might be. And we're now making sure that all the dumbasses in the audience really know what's about to happen. It doesn't treat its audience with contempt. If anything, actually, it's like, come on, keep up. We're doing all we need to for you here. And that's why I found myself taking myself out of some of these movies by accident, by overthinking, because they're giving you so much to work with that you're like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be what this will mean and how this will gel in and what is that going to mean. Whereas maybe I should have just had more popcorn, you know what I mean, and enjoyed while I was watching.
Yeah, like that's it. It very much because there's a lot of they do a lot of history behind kind of the things in the deeper lore of the movies and stuff like that. But it's all kind of like, look, if you want to know this, it's there. We
Yeah,
built a little bit of a history behind these things, and we have like art books and stuff that may they'll give you a little bit more background towards the Howl's Moving Castle or the Castle in the Sky or the big wolf from Princess Mononoke or
yeah.
any of these elements, um, you know, but we don't need to have, as you say, the dark the dark tavern with the
Yeah,
kind of grizzly old man who's
the
just like
storyteller.
oh Howl's Moving Castle's a cursed place, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It happened 3 years ago, kind of explanation or anything like
exactly.
that. Um, yeah, I will also say that there is a treat. So, for the people out there who are aspiring to be writers in any kind of element, um, there's a thing in writing, which is like if you're going to give a lot of explanation, for whatever reason, we have to explain something to the audience in being it in a book or TV or film. You give people something to kind of like here's a reward for getting through all of that. Studio Ghibli does that as well, and it does it with its fantastic looking food. I have never been more constantly hungry while watching a movie and it from Studio Ghibli, than I have like any other movie. So, like, I've just got some gifts of just some nice, delicious food on screen.
Fantastic.
Um,
It's just come up for me. Fantastic.
it's just an absolute treat. The way that they cook, the way that they draw. I say cook because it seems
It
so.
does. Makes you bloody hungry, all right. It's true.
Oh, there's a one. I think there's a very simple stew in like in one of them, and you're just like, oh, that looks great. I could eat that all day.
And is it okay for me to ask you random questions now about some things that I don't know?
Yeah.
Because obviously food, and maybe again, Hayao Miyazaki. I'm going to guess a couple of things about this person. They definitely like aviation. There's
Yes.
no way they do not like aviation. They also have an interest, and I'm not going to say everybody assumes steampunk, I'd say, because they see the poster for Hell's Moving Castle.
Mhm.
That's not what I would think. I don't think that's the uh steampunk, modern, great, wonderful, all that kind of very hip and cool right now. I think there's somebody with a deep love of aviation and mechanics
Yeah.
inside the people that made this. And I kind of share, obviously, I have an affinity with some of that. There's also, other than, beautiful hills, beautiful scenery, beautiful environment, there's definitely that sense. But is there also just the level of adorable and cute that can be done? Everybody says Star Wars had, Jawas, Ewoks, Yoda. Then you have the little dudes on the island that I can't remember now. The uh, pom pom. What were they
Yeah, the
called
pom
again?
poms thing. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, and then the little builder fixer people in later stuff. There there is a way to get to my heart, and it's usually through animals and then cute things. If you can do aviation mechanics, then animals very well, and then adorable cute things like little suit monsters, or not suit monsters, little suit
Oh yeah,
particles,
the soot monsters from Spirited Away. Yeah.
the little suit dust ball guys. I, I there I think we would do well over dinner, me and that guy. I think we would be showing each other the same things on Instagram, going, "Look how cool this is." Is that universal, or have I picked this up wrong? Because
No,
it
that's
does seem to
so.
be woven in
Um,
there.
no, it is very true. There is a lot of they have a lot of mechanical kind of like machinery kind of. They don't want any kind of like just so futuristic that it seems like kind of magic. It needs to be kind of steamy and mechanically and spinning things and everything like that. So like I think it's just there's a gritty there's a type of kind of it's a combination of kite punk and steampunk kind of elements to it. You are completely right about the aviation part, which is Miyazaki is very much into his planes. Entirely, there is a movie called The Wind Rises, which is entirely the development of a aircraft.
Excellent. I
It's
look forward to that
yeah,
one.
it's entirely it's about the an aircraft designer who I think it's I'm sad to say, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't watched this one in a long time, but I'm not sure if it's like a fighter plane kind of thing, or if it is just a generic kind of aviation plane. But
Passenger aircraft, right?
yeah, kind of thing. But it's a very it's entirely on that. And then most of them, because they try to do the folklore kind of children's kind of thing, they want a cuteness to things.
Hmm.
And they like to also put a cuteness to things that can turn quickly. Because No Face in Spirited Away is sort of kind of like cute at the start, but then as he evolves, he becomes very vicious, which is very normal, kind of thing. But yeah, no, there's a lot of that kind of cuteness. Kind of Ponyo is probably one of the best, most recent ones with the cuteness kind of thing.
I'm just
Um,
seeing the Wind Rises poster because I'm in a little bit of a delay behind Paul. So
yeah,
I just came up on my screen, and I might end up with that poster because it's very okay. It's got an obvious Asian influence, but one of my favorite artists is a guy called Jack Vetriano. Pictures over here. That poster I could have said was a Vitriano. That's interesting. So, gosh, I can't wait to watch that. I've already got my weekend viewing planned again, thanks to Paul.
it's like no, that is a fantastic one to be able to go to. Another one is probably the Castle in the Sky, which is another one I also very much like as well. I couldn't obviously give you every single one. I'm like,
No, no,
this is the best one.
no.
This is
I
um,
understand.
but Castle in the Sky is very steampunky as well, or very kind of like aviation based and that kind of like form of technology kind of I guess would be the best
There's a
way.
definite love of mechanics, and
Oh yeah,
just Paul, this is very much your thing, and we're all very clear on that, and everybody knows that automobiles and stuff is very much my thing. Well, there's a wonderful crossover moment where they took the time, and this doesn't spoil the story at all, to put Ghibli in a great font on top of the valve cover on an engine in Poco Rosso.
yeah.
And they did it because it's set in Italy. They did it period correct with the right kind of font for the way the Italians were doing things then. And there was a small part of me that just, the little clenched fist stuff. Yes. I had my I got to full nerd out in a nice way, and I was very, very happy. I felt seen, Paul.
I
I
thought
felt seen from a distant time and a man from a foreign land who felt me.
I did think that you would probably enjoy there's a moment in Poker Rosso when which is Rosso does goes to his mechanic for his plane
Yes.
and gets it rebuilt, and I thought, oh, this Patrick's gonna
The whole
love this moment.
the whole sequence, the entirety of the time spent in Milan's garage. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely thought you would enjoy that. Castle of the Sky is very much a similar kind of vein to it as well, kind of thing. But yeah, no. So to kind of wrap things up, with Ghibli, Ghibli has a very kind of wide variety of stuff. From the surface level, it's a cute folklore kind of story in which you can enjoy the visuals and the kind of show and tell kind of mentality with elements of it. If you look into deeper, it's got such great themes, going from environmental to war, PTSD, trauma, which is coming of age, feminism, which goes so it's got a wide variety of loads of those kind of things as well with it. And then obviously I'm going to do it one more time. It's got delicious food.
Yeah,
Kind of
it really has, and I haven't eaten yet, so please don't put the gift. It's especially, and I'm not into like the big fried breakfast thing, which is anybody who ever visits Ireland as a tourist, you're gonna think we do these fried breakfasts. That's only really in hotels. Not many people do that in their home. But oh gosh, I wanted those eggs when I was watching that. I'm like, they're
eggs.
the best eggs ever.
Yeah, no, it's
Mm.
fantastic. But yeah, so which is if like so in the comments down below, let us know what your favorite Ghibli movie is, which is, and also if you decide to go and watch them because of this, which you please let us know. And we can't say it like more or can't say it anymore. Please go and like have a look at these movies, which could, they are a sense of history within the kind of animation and movie kind of uh I guess sphere. Uh
And Paul, if you end up going and watch it, so anybody out there that does dip their toe in, if you end up hating this and go, what are they talking about? That's all right too.
yeah.
Not everything is for everybody. But I would love to hear what it was. If anybody is like, oh, you know what, it turns out I just can't really do animated movies of any kind. Fair enough. You'll probably still have but I liked this about it, or but I'd never seen anything like that, or but whatever it might be. So love it or hate it, absolutely. If you do go and watch some Ghibli, or if you've already seen some, get in the comments down below. On your way past, a little like and a little thumbs up there, a little share maybe, possibly a subscribe. We do all sorts of stuff on the channel, and we'd love to have a big community of people around us to say what they ended up liking or not liking based on what we said.
Exactly. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Paul,
I've been Patrick.
and we've been Hear Us Out. See you next week.
See you next time. Bye bye.